Good evening, everyone. Jay Saki here, and here again with Giles. Giles, how's it going?
Okay, I was just previously boogieing down to 80s anime intros.
Pardon me? Oh, boogieing down. You are rocking
Yes,
out to anime intros.
yes, but it was from the 80s, so at least I have some taste.
Well, 80 anime intros do have some rocking good music. I think we can all agree on that.
I hope so.
Okay, so the premise of tonight's video is we're just going to talk about what movies do we honestly watch the most? Because everyone has like what they call their favorite movies, but then when you really think about it, you don't always watch those movies the most. And the films you watch the most, maybe those are the movies that are your real favorites. I know people who will say that 2001 A Space Odyssey, one of their favorite films. I'm wondering, like, do they actually watch that movie like once a year, get out the popcorn, like just sit there and watch that? Like, I often suspect not. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. In this case, we're going to talk about the movies that we watch the most. So we're going to start with what movies do we actually watch like once a year? Like, we make time to watch these films once a year, or also maybe we don't necessarily make time, but those movies just seem to keep falling into our lives. Like, it's on TV or it's free on YouTube, and you're like, oh, that, and then you just watch it again. So, Giles, what's one movie that you watch every year? And we are discounting Christmas movies.
Okay,
Everybody watches the same Christmas movies every year, so not including those.
okay, I'm gonna have to scratch at least one off my list. Um,
Okay, if it's Die Hard, then you can add that to it.
no, it,
That's
it was a Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah, sorry. That's I watch that every year also. So it's just I know, like I said, holiday Christmas movies is just everybody watches the same thing. So it's maybe we could have a different discussion closer to Christmas, like what Christmas movies we watch every year.
Okay, well that's a little bit easier, but actually, to kind of break your logic a little bit, the film I watch every year, even maybe multiple times, is my favorite movie, and that's The Thing.
I do like that one. I haven't. I'm newer to that film. I think I only watched it for the first time about 5 years ago. Then I know I showed it to my parents at some point. I definitely really like that one. It might be one that I'll keep up with more often, but we have yet to see if that will happen. Oh, also keep in mind, there's movies that we say are our favorites, but with time that can always change. There are movies that we used to watch every year, and then you might realize that you don't watch them every year. But I liked The Thing. It's definitely a good one. People should watch it.
Yeah, I Yes, there are movies that I kind of define favorite by movies I can watch anytime and enjoy, regardless of the last time I've seen them. And that falls into like a handful of movies, and I wouldn't consider them maybe not the best artistically, but some of them are, some of them aren't. But I can agree that there are movies that are artistic masterpieces, and I barely ever watch them.
But any quick reasons why you love The Thing so much?
It's a film you can watch again and again and start picking up new things every time you watch it. There are small, subtle things constantly going on that you don't pick up on a first, second, or even third watch. And occasionally, I'm even seeing new things, even now.
I would say I like it. It's a very cozy horror film. You can watch it, you can enjoy it. It's not like depressing, and you can feel good about yourself that you're not in the same situation as these guys in the Antarctic. And it's got, everyone's favorite man with beard, Russell Crowe. Sorry,
Oh yeah,
Kurt Russell, not Russell Crowe.
I was about to correct you on that, but yeah, it's Kurt Russell. Okay, so I guess it has to throw back to me then. Is that what is one of your movies that you watch every year?
Okay, so I'll start us off with Black Hawk Down. I am a war film junkie. I've sadly realized that most people don't love war films as much as I do, especially contemporary war films. But this has always been one of my favorite films. Watch it every year. That being said, I think this past year might be the last time. Whenever I last watched it, I feel like I might be drawing to a little bit of a close with this. Like the last time I watched it, I felt a little bit tired and winded, and I suspect in the future I'm gonna make a little bit less time to watch it. But who knows? But I do love this one a lot, and I suspect you couldn't care less about Black Hawk Down.
I don't necessarily dislike Black Hawk Down. It's just that I have a certain type of war movie that I enjoy, and that you call well, just how do I say this politely? Indulging in misery.
Are you saying you like the kind that indulge in misery, or that I do?
No, that you keep constantly calling the war films I like indulgences in misery.
Oh yes. I think I have said that before. But all right, so back to you again. What's a movie that what's another film that you watch every year?
These were in no particular order, but I'm going to put the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan the Barbarian.
Interesting. I've only ever watched that one time. It was just something to watch to cross off my list. I thought it was amusing. I now get a bunch of references. I can't say I really care for it. I mean, I get it. It's like, oh, 80s fantasy, kind of neat. I get it has a following. I just, it's not my thing.
It was one of the films that catapulted Schwarzenegger as a legitimate actor. It has lots of good physical acting to it because certain bits are narrated or there's no actual talking, and a lot of what they're trying to get over is portrayed physically. But I'm just a fan of Conan in general, and I like that kind of sword and sandal fantasy subgenre.
Sword and sorcery. It occurred to me though, wasn't that Schwarzenegger's like very first movie? I
No, that was Hercules in New York.
okay. Was he starring in that?
Yes, but they thought his voice was so atrocious he was dubbed over by another actor.
Okay, I just know Schwarzenegger. I guess since he was first known as being the bodybuilder, he then wanted to get into movies, and he said like he didn't want to have to do a side role. He wanted to be starring in like his first movie. I don't know about that Hercules in New York film, but I'm pretty sure Conan the Barbarian is one of those things where it's like, I need to be starring in this film, not a side bit. And he kind of like forced his way to the top, even though he had basically no actor cred.
He had no actors training, no real actors cred. The first film he ever did almost destroyed his acting career totally, and it was thankfully Conan that showed that he could act and perform and would go to great lengths during the film for his own personal safety to portray the role. Conan's something you need to do like a video on to go over all the intricacies. I think I've explained quite a bit of why I like Conan. So round two, second ish favorite film. I don't exactly want to rank them, but what would you add on next?
My favorite film of all time, Sunset Boulevard from 1950. I definitely watch this film every year. One of my favorite films since I was a teenager. It's not sure if it's hard to say why. It's about a guy who has a somewhat failed Hollywood career, and it has all this rich 1950s Hollywood hit, well, not just 1950s, but it has all this rich Hollywood history that was happening at the time and in the past, including all these famous people playing themselves in the movie. And the movie really resonated with me. It's very interesting watching it every year because in the last few years, since I've gotten older, it's definitely changed a lot. Now, when I watch it, definitely there are parts of it that do rub me the wrong way. Certain aspects of it that make me feel more depressed because as an adult, I get better what's really going on in the movie in more than one context. And it is a bit sad and depressing having to watch the movie as an adult. I still really like it. Still my favorite film of all time. Even more than Black Hawk Down. Sunset Boulevard is still my top undefeated film that I love so much. Any thoughts on Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard, I've only really watched it once and at your behest. And I thought it was okay. There is a certain like history of Hollywood that I'm not particularly into and crop up in a few other films. But for the technical aspect of the film itself, I think it is very artistically well put together and interesting to watch, even if the plot's not necessarily your thing.
Well, I'm really glad you watched it on at my behest. So, what's another movie that you watch every year?
Easy one here is The Crow. I love The Crow. I think it shaped a lot of my early music influences. I think Brandon Lee was a very underrated actor that could have gone on to do a lot more. And it's just a cool film to watch.
He's only underrated because his career got underrated by or undermined by a bullet. Sadly, rest in peace. I actually I watched The Crow at your behest because you mentioned it. I get why people like it. I get the production. It's all about the production value. I think people like it for similar reasons why people like movies like Blade Runner. I'll just say The Crow, visually very striking, wasn't my thing. Or at least it was good enough. I'm not going to watch it again.
Fair. Okay, number three. I had The Crow, and you have.
Oh, well, another movie for me that I watch every year would be The Hurt Locker. So I know that I don't usually like depressing war films, but The Hurt Locker is a weird one for me. I believe it was a 2008 movie. Iraq war film about where Jeremy Renner plays a bomb squad guy who disarms bombs. And it is definitely a dark descent movie down the rabbit hole, and it has everything I don't like about a lot of war films because I don't think it particularly makes the American military look very good. Everyone in the movie seems to be seems to be a sullen coward except for the main character who's great, but the main character is only great at his job because he's a bloodthirsty adrenaline junkie essentially. So many things I don't like in a movie, but it's just so well done. The movie is a very surreal experience to watch. It's strange, it's otherworldly in its delivery. There's a lot of very strange details because even though the movie is supposed to be like this super real look, this super overly gritty look at the Iraq War, the movie's technically exists within its own fantasy realm in a sense because there's all these little inaccuracies in the movie. Like there's I'm good. There's small changes the movie makes to history that puts the movie in its own reality, which makes it like in its own alternate universe in a very significant way. That's something that I personally have a taste for. It's a movie that you just have to watch either you get this movie and you love it or you don't. Did you ever watch The Hurt Locker?
I don't think I did.
Well, I mean, it is a war film. It is an American war film. Most people don't love this movie, but it did get Best Picture back in the day. And for some reason, it hits that dark descent. I don't always love depressing things, but there's a very specific kind of dark descent film that I enjoy. And yeah, I do like it for reasons. But you go ahead. Tell me another film that you watch every year.
Okay, carrying on, I guess, from your theme. It's not exactly a war film, but Aliens. It involves the military in a way, since it involves a fictional space marine corps taking on the xenomorphs from the first film Alien, and it established a lot going forward with the expanded universe. It had a lot of quotable scenes that even I think I've run into people who haven't seen the film know some of the lines from the movie. It is entertaining from start to finish, and it's probably one of the best Sigourney Weaver films.
Right. I really respect Aliens. I've only watched it a couple of times. I was late to that movie. Did not grow up with it, but it was sometime maybe 10 years ago I first saw it, and I thought it was really good. Like I watched Alien for the very first time, and I thought that was great. And then I watched Aliens, and I thought Aliens was also really good. And I've only ever watched it twice. It's a respectable, legit movie. It's one of those they don't make them like they used to.
Okay, well, we're almost towards the end of this particular list, so I guess I have to hand it off back to you.
Yep, okay, another one of my movies that I watch every single year. This is the last on my list of movies that I know for sure I watch every single year. That would be Dread from 2012.
Okay, spoiler, but you can also cover this then, because this is one of the films I would watch less than every year, but repeat quite a lot.
Yeah, I may have watched it a couple times recently. This is one of those movies where I never thought this would be one of my favorite films. I know I saw it probably around 2013, 2014, And at the time, I was like, "Hey, that was pretty good. That was a legit movie." And then I've always found myself returning to it. And even when I think like maybe I've seen it enough times, like I return to it again and again and again. It is just such a good movie.
I'm a fan of the 2000 AD universe made by Rebellion Comics, which Judge Dredd's a part of. And even though it's not 100% accurate to the comics, I think it is a very good and fair a very good and fair depiction of the character of Dredd and Mega City One.
Yeah, I think someday we're gonna have to do like a full on movie review of Dredd, breaking it down a
Yep,
bit, but everyone should see this movie. It is a work of art. It is Shakespearean in how well made it is.
I wouldn't go that far, but sure.
So those are for me the only I've gotten through everything that I know for sure I watch every year.
Okay, I have one more.
Go for it.
That is Perfect Blue by Satoshi Kon. It,
Interesting.
It is a psychological horror anime film, somewhat inspired by things like Silence of the Lambs, and has a good few twists. It is about an idol actress who goes from the rather clean and controlled world of idol singing in Japan to being a actress, and a lot of her perception on the world starts to change, where she starts to compromise her previous very whitewashed appearance as an idol by doing certain adult scenes for feature films and TV series.
I only ever think okay, so Perfect Blue. I don't know this one for sure. Does it involve a guy who lost his memory at some point and he's running around Washington D.C.?
No,
Okay, okay. In that case, I have not seen this one. I don't know what this one is.
it is a good psychological. It is one of those dark spiral movies of a woman giving in to things that she might not necessarily agree to fulfill her dream as being an actress, and it leads to a psychological breakdown.
Next question is like, what? So we're going through movies that we watch once a year. Now, what are the movies that we watch like sort of every year, like every 2 to 3 years? Since we're pressed for time, let's just go a little bit quicker. I'll just rattle off like two of them, and if you want to give some thoughts, you can. 13 Hours, directed by Michael Bay. That's one that I really enjoyed because that was about the Benghazi terrorist attack from, I believe, 2012. I guess it's a bit politically contentious because of things that happened around then, but I honestly think I read the book that the security team there all co-authored. The 5 to 6 guys who ran around like bailed everybody out and saved everybody's lives that night. They wrote a whole book on like what happened, what they saw that night, and I thought the movie did a really excellent job at very accurately going over that. So that's one that I, at the very least, really like. Another one is also That Thing You Do, written and directed by Tom Hanks, about the '60s rock band that could. Have you seen That Thing You Do?
Yes, once.
Are you a fan of that one, or just it's okay?
I, I'm not big on Tom Hanks films, to be honest.
Okay, I actually think That Thing You Do is technically, even though I don't know if I'd call it a favorite or not, but I've watched it a lot. I would argue it is kind of one of the greatest films ever made. But okay, let's go back to you. What are a couple of films that you watch like every 2 to 3 years? You watch them.
Well, you've already done Dread 3D, so I'm going to go for Yojimbo, which is an Akira Kurosawa film that went on to inspire a film called A Fistful of Dollars.
Right, and in turn, that inspired Last Man Standing, starring Bruce Willis. Does anyone actually know
Uh,
that movie?
no.
It's like a either late '80s or early '90s movie where it's a prohibition story, but never mind that. Yojimbo. Okay, I've watched that only one time, like ages ago. I mean, obviously, I know the story, so I can't claim I don't remember much about it. It's one of those movies that I would like to revisit, and because I want to get back into Akira Kurosawa, because I've only seen a few of his movies one time, and obviously they're not the most enthralling films ever made, but everyone's constantly referencing them. So I want to go back and watch Yojimbo again, as well as Seven Samurai. But what you really do watch Yojimbo every couple of years?
Yeah, it's probably other than maybe Ran, the Kurosawa film I watched the most.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you a few more. This falls into like the every 2 to 3 years category. I'll just knock off two more war films. We Were Soldiers, Vietnam War film. Much very similar to Black Hawk Down. I watch that every probably 2 to 3 years or so. Hacksaw Ridge, that's one I've watched a lot since it came out in theaters enough times. Between the two of those movies, which one do you prefer?
I'm not potentially sure. I think maybe Hacksaw Ridge.
I had a feeling. Yeah, I think Hacksaw Ridge is pretty legit. Even a lot of people who don't normally like war films seem to really like that one. Okay, and what are some more films that you enjoy every
Okay,
so often?
okay. I'll add two more that I do really enjoy a lot. One is Goodfellas. Everyone's seen Goodfellas. If you haven't seen Goodfellas, you should watch it.
Okay, I haven't watched that. I how would I describe my relationship with that movie? I watched it once in college and thought it was good, and then I know I've seen it a few more times, and I told myself maybe I was beyond that movie, but every time I put it on, it's one of those films where once you start it, you have to finish it.
Yeah, and to round it out, Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
That's one I've never watched because it's Stanley Kubrick, and I like some of Stanley Kubrick's movies. I've always stayed away from Doctor Strangelove because from what little I saw, I did not really like how Stanley Kubrick was portraying the Cold War. Maybe I just have to watch the whole movie so I know for sure, but I just never felt too inspired to watch that. But I mean, a lot of people like it.
It is it has well, it became an unintentional comedy during filming, not down to Peter Sellers and a few others, but it is an unintentionally funny film.
Right. Well, I have one more movie for what I watch every few years, and I'm cheating a little with this one because I've only watched this 3 times, technically, strictly speaking, but I know I want to watch it more, and that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I saw that in theaters and I loved it, and then I watched it again because I showed it to my parents some years later, and whenever I got my first house, whenever I was finally settled in and trying to relax, I watched it again. And I know that I'm going to definitely be revisiting it every so often. That movie's going to be with me the rest of my life. It's kind of like, to me, a successor to Sunset Boulevard. Whenever I first saw the movie, for some reason, Sunset Boulevard was going through my mind after it was over. And I noticed a few other critics said the exact same thing. They're like, this movie feels like the unofficial sequel to Sunset Boulevard with what it was doing. Do you have any strong thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Not particularly. Like Hollywood history is probably like my least favorite area of geography and history.
That is the one thing, because even though I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think that's Tarantino's hands down best movie ever. I do have to concede that if you live outside the US, something about it might not quite gel with you as well. I just know it was funny watching because I watching it with my parents because I know I like the movie, but whenever I was showing it to them, they very specifically just kept like chuckling and laughing at all these little moments, and I wasn't even quite sure what they were laughing at. They were very specifically noticing very small, fine details that they remember very much so from when they were alive back then that I, couldn't. It's not like I didn't. It's not like I didn't get all the references, but they were getting something else out of that movie that even I didn't quite get out of as much as they did. So it was interesting just seeing how well Tarantino like brought that time period to life. Okay, anyways, do you want to move on to the third category, which is what are movies that we don't watch every year, but you want to make more time to watch? Yeah, or at least we're drifting in that direction. But if you say, "Oh yeah, I actually do watch that movie every year," then you can say that.
One I would like to go back over is not so much a film, but it's sort of an era of films, and that is the Hammer horror movies.
What movies would those be?
There are tons of Christopher Lee Dracula movies. There are Bela Lugosi movies. They set the standard for horror for a long time before we started to get things like sci-fi horror, courtesy of Alien.
And did you watch those movies every year?
I used to watch them quite a bit, but a lot when I was younger and didn't exactly pick up on a lot of things that I could have done as an adult.
Okay, so you're just saying these are the films that you don't watch as often, but you wish you had more time to watch.
Yes.
I know I watched a bunch of those over the last couple of years. I watched Son of Dracula, the original Dracula, The Mummy, and I Walked with a Zombie. So I actually did sit around and watch a bunch of those kind of films, and I did enjoy them. Son of Dracula, most of all. I think that one's actually pretty fun. So on my end, for movies that I wish I had more time to watch, Saving Mr. Banks from I think 2011. I don't remember, somewhere around that time, somewhere between 2009 2014. Saving Mr. Banks, the movie about Walt Disney essentially making Mary Poppins. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think so.
Really? That's a movie I like quite a bit. It's another one of those movies where I watched it one time and I knew I really enjoyed it, and then I've gone back to it and it's always worked for me every single time I watched it. It's basically the movie where the Walt Disney is in the movie as a character, and I think it's a very good, affectionate portrayal of Walt Disney, even if a little bit inaccurate. I mean, the story it's a heavily fictionalized film, but I think the movie does a really good at getting across the spirit of Walt Disney. Like they do portray him as like a great person, but they acknowledge that you don't get to be that powerful without being a little bit conniving and backstabbing in a way. So it did do a whole lot with that story. So that's one that I like. I wish I had more time to go back to it. It's one of those things where one of these evenings I need to watch it again, but who knows when I will. Yeah. What's another one for you?
Okay, I have one, but it's a cliche, and it's usually because it's one of those films everyone talks about and it's played in every film school. You cannot escape it, and that's Citizen Kane.
I only ever watched that one time, and I admit I did not really get into it. I acknowledge it was probably really good. It's just I wouldn't mind giving it another go. It has been on my mind of things that I would like to watch again. I just know whenever I first saw it, I think I was just in the wrong place, or I didn't really know what to expect, so maybe it clashed with my expectations. I would not mind giving that one another chance though, to better get an idea. I don't want to just blow it off but because it is so famous. For me, another film that I really wish I had more time to watch is Blade Runner. Do you watch this one often?
I do not as off. I really like the film. I really like Blade Runner. There's a lot of like cassette futurism and other things I really enjoy. It's just that it's more towards the bottom of the list because there are other films in that genre I prefer to watch more often.
I feel very similarly towards it. I've only seen it two times because it's a new film that entered into my life about 6 years ago, and I thought it was really good the first time. I thought it was really good whenever I rewatched it for our review, and I wish I could make more time to watch it. I wish I could have like a once a year Blade Runner holiday where I just watch Blade Runner because anytime I watch clips of it on YouTube, I'm like, darn, this movie is just so enjoyable to sink yourself into. I don't know if that sounded weird.
That's good.
So what's another one for you?
Okay, I'm cheating again because it's not one film; it's more of a series of films, and that is the whole early kaiju film run, Godzilla, Mothra, etc., etc.
From like the 40s and 50s?
Yeah, I've been getting into the more modern films as of late, like Shin Godzilla, Godzilla minus one, etc. And I have seen the older films once before. I would just really like to pay a bit more attention to them and sit down and do it. I can just never seem to get in the right mood to do so.
Interesting. So for me, the older films I want to watch to get educated on are the Akira Kurosawa movies. You want to get into the old Godzilla movies. I just assumed that Godzilla was a product of its time. I've never wanted to watch those older Godzilla movies, but you seem to think there might be something worth digesting there.
It's a huge universe, and the original Godzilla film is much more of a horror film than all the films that came after it.
Well, to be well-rounded, maybe I should watch like whatever the original few Godzilla films were. Maybe I should watch them and just so I have that knowledge under my belt. Okay, so another movie for me. This is technically on my list of favorite films, but I admit I have not watched it in a very long time. Probably just due to life not giving me time to watch it. Because I used to watch this film maybe multiple times a year, but as of the last like 7 years, I've not. I don't think I have watched it. My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen My Fair Lady. It's been a while, but I have.
Were you a fan of it?
I thought it was one of those films that's very good, very well produced, very well shot, very well acted that I don't watch enough.
Would you want to watch it more?
Probably at least once more, I guess.
I just loved everything about it, Why can't the English teach their children how to speak? Just you white, Henry Higgins, just you white. All those numbers, the coziness of Henry Higgins' house makes you want to live his lifestyle. Loved it. What's another one for you?
It's one I fell in love with for quite a while, and a period of days watched quite a bit, and then it just completely fell off the radar. And that was Charlie Chaplin in The Great Dictator.
Wow, interesting. That is fascinating. I've seen scenes from that were like really funny. I feel like I once sat down to try to watch the whole thing and I maybe came off as a bit boring and then I stopped. I guess it would be one to watch just for the education. I know it has some really hysterical moments that when because I know it's like he's spoofing Adolf Hitler. It's the scene where I know like he's like dancing around and like with he's dancing around with the globe and like kicking it in the air.
Yes,
Like that was really
yes,
funny stuff.
yes. It's a Jewish barber who gets mistaken for not, it's not literally Hitler, but it's a Hitler analog.
Okay, so what happens in that movie exactly? I just thought it was. I thought Charlie Chaplin was basically playing like a spoof version of Hitler.
Yes, it is. It is a spoof of Hitler because they didn't just want to do just the Nazis straight out, but it is Hitler.
But you're saying he's a Jewish barber who gets mistaken for something?
Yes, he gets mistaken for Hitler.
Okay,
'Cause the like the bodyguards and the German army mistake him for Hitler as Hitler accidentally goes missing.
okay. There's another layer to that movie I was not aware of. Another one for me is 1776, the musical. It was a movie that was a musical, like a stage musical that was produced on like the 200th bicentennial of America's birthday, or America's independence, about the founding fathers, signing the Declaration of Independence and early American foundations. I only watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and I'd never heard of it before. Because the stage show Hamilton was a big deal, there was some buzz online like, "Hey, do people remember 1776?" So I watched the movie version, which came out a few years later, and was really blown away. That was a one where I really loved the songs and I really got into the spirit of it, and I liked how quotable it was. Yeah, of course I'm American, so I guess I'm biased with that one. I just know I really loved it, and I was surprised I had never seen it before, and I wish I could give myself more time to watch it again. I wish I could make that. I wish I could make that a yearly film if there was like 2 more months in the year. Have you even heard of this movie?
Oh yeah,
Okay, what's another one for you?
I think I'm out. I can't think of any more.
Okay, well I just have a couple more that I'll go through. Blade Runner 2049. That was one that I saw for the first time within the last half a year, and that blew my mind. I loved that one so much, maybe even more than the first Blade Runner. Very emotionally impactful movie, and much like the first Blade Runner, I want to make more time to watch it again. I want to see it again at some point, but I just don't know when or if that will happen, or if I can, how much time I'll be able to make for it. You've seen Blade Runner 2049, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you have any opinions on it and how it compares to the first one?
I don't think it's as good as the first one, but I do think it is at least a worthy sequel within the universe.
Okay, and my last movie here is Treasure Planet. I have watched this movie quite a few times over the years, and I tell myself it's one of my favorite films, but oddly, I don't watch it as often as I want to. I think the themes and morals are really good, and it kind of shows you the kind of values that Disney used to have, because it was written and directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, who are two veterans of Disney who also did stuff like Great Mouse Detective, Hercules, and what else? I know they've done a bunch of things. They've been with Disney for a very long time, and they recently retired. And one of them had some somewhat spicy things to say about Disney on his way out the door that was kind of telling. But I really like Treasure Planet. That's one of those ones that got way better with age. Do you have any strong opinions on that one?
I think it was one of those early attempts to do something new with animation, and I think it is definitely the higher end of being a product of its time.
Do you mean that in a good way or a bad way?
I mean that in a good way. It was trying to do something that didn't exactly hit all the time, but they were really putting effort into doing this new type of animation.
Right. I would say it came out around the same time Atlantis came out, and I think they were trying to add like a certain kind of like adult edge to their animated films that wasn't quite resonating with families or audiences.
Anytime Disney or any of those companies tries to do something that is specifically a bit more adult, it tends to fail more often than not. For example, I'll give you Black Cauldron, which is a good film, but didn't resonate as well with the audiences.
Do you watch Black Cauldron a lot?
Not a lot, but I've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah, I've never seen that one. Okay, so here's the final question for the evening. Where does Lord of the Rings and Star Wars fall in all of this? Especially Lord of the Rings, because, I've known people who say that they have like a tradition of watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy once a year. And I don't quite have that. I kind of wish I did. And I kind of wonder why I don't exactly. I'm sure if you're anything like me, you've seen Lord of the Rings a whole bunch of times, you've seen Star Wars a whole bunch of times. But how often do we actually go back and watch these movies? Starting with just Lord of the Rings. Like, you tell me, do you have a once a year watching of the Lord of the Rings?
Not really. Lord of the Rings, I had read the book previously several times, and I came to watch the films, and I thought they were okay. Well, they're okay is a bit of an understatement. I thought they're really good. It's just that I have read the story so many times that it just being visually great doesn't make much of a difference for me.
Okay, but have you watched the movies a lot over the years?
Not really. It's been several years in between me watching them again.
Fascinating. Well, how many times have you seen them?
I'm guessing maybe five or six, maybe.
Okay, so it's there. You did at the very least, go back to them a bunch of times. I've undoubtedly seen them way more than that. For me, it's just I definitely haven't watched them all the way through in over 7 years now. I think I wonder if it's because maybe I didn't like the movies as much as I told myself I did. But then I remember that, oh yeah, you literally have to sit down and watch all three of them to get through the whole story. You don't just sit around and watch one of them. So I envy people who have like their once a year Lord of the Rings watching. Plus, for me, it's also really hard to divorce myself from how I felt at the time when I saw them in the theaters because I was still developing taste. So I remember them solidly from how fun it was to see them in theaters. It's been hard to like give it enough time to really go back and really analyze them, divorced of my emotional involvement and get a real opinion. Like, do I actually personally like these movies, or is it just the excitement of everybody else rubbing off on me essentially that's making me like them? I think they're good, and I know I've praised them as much as everyone else, but I really need to give them a watching by myself in the isolation of my house and get like a really strong critical opinion of each movie. I think to my memory, I still think the first movie's probably the best.
I'm probably going to go with the third personally.
See, the third one is the one that for me, like, even though it's the most bombastic, for lack of a better word, it's actually the one that I think always feels a little bit weak for some reason. That's hard to put my finger on. But who knows? I've not watched the movies in so long. Maybe if I watch them, maybe it will change. How about Star Wars? The Star Wars movies. These are hailed as, like, great movies or iconic at the very least. How often do you go back to watch those?
Very, very, very rarely. I have seen Star Wars so many times. I have seen the expanded universe stuff so many times. I just couldn't sit through it again. It'd be like eating too much candy. I just get sick after a while.
I That's kind of how I think I feel similarly. For me, Star Wars is one of those things where it has always existed, like my left hand has always existed, or like how grass has always existed. I can never remember a time where I first saw them. I think it would have been really neat to not grow up with them and watch them way later on and get an opinion divorced of like your childhood nostalgia. And I remember as a kid, like, I couldn't not like those movies because they were exciting sci-fi action. They were wars in the stars. But I could never, like I said, I could never ever let enough time go between watching them to like actually watch and consider what my mind is actually digesting, and if do I actually personally like them, or is it just the excitement of everybody else making me like them, or are they even that good? But it has been, again, with those, it's been about 10 years. I think I would like to go online and download the despecialized editions where fans have Frankensteined the original versions back together without all the added special edition content. I would like to download those sometime and, for education, go through all three movies and get an actual opinion on Star Wars. Any extra thoughts on that?
Not really. I have spoken so much about Star Wars over the years, been in so many conversations about the expanded universe and other such things that I've got nothing left to say about Star Wars.
Do you think anyone actually, well, the audience, doesn't know all your thoughts on Star Wars yet. Do you think anyone actually likes Star Wars, or is it just everybody's imagination thinking they like Star Wars?
I think everyone likes Star Wars because it solidified the space opera genre, really. And I kind of agree that it was a film that was saved by the editing room. I think that it is there more for spectacle than it is like character drama and so on. It is an adventure movie all the way through, and over the years they've tried to explain more and more things, and it's just made it worse and worse.
Do you think that Empire Strikes Back is most likely the best of the three films?
Um, I'm actually going with A New Hope.
Okay, interesting, because it's been so long since I watched them, but I noticed that via the internet opinion, Return of the Jedi has really soured with a lot of people over the years. And I know the consensus is that Empire Strikes Back is actually the best, but you're going with A New Hope. A New Hope might be the best, but yeah, I've not seen them in so long. Any other last thoughts for the night?
Not really. I am literally so burned out on Star Wars that I'm actually starting to forget things about it.
Yeah, even putting aside all the new Star Wars content that's come out in the last 10 years, like, you're still just burned out on it. Okay, I guess that's it. I guess we've come to discuss what we came to discuss. So if that's it, then I guess we could just wish everyone a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Take care, folks, and I hope that tonight's episode was educational, food for thought that improved your life in some way for the better.